Welcome to another video from theplayersaid.com. My name's Alexander.
And I'm Grant.
And today we are taking a look at the brand new Imperial struggle.
Yeah.
I nearly said Twilight struggle.
I know you did.
We were just talking about
it.
So, Imperial struggle.
Imperial struggle.
From GMT Games. And it's designed by Ananda Gupta and Jason Matthews.
Yep.
Okay, we got through the hard bit. So,
this is our first impression,
Yes.
thoughts. We've played it one time.
Yeah, and this is a game that obviously is going to reward and also warrant multiple plays and investments, just like games like Twilight Struggle, 1960, Washington's War, Labyrinth, all those kind of two-player, quite very competitive, card-driven games. The more you play, the better you get at it, and the more you'll learn different strategies over the course of the games. This is kind of the next one of those style games.
Yes.
Head-to-head, fighting over the control of the board, basically.
Yeah.
So...
And it's very good.
Yes.
It's very good.
I'm not going to show you the board and go through the mechanics in this. We're just going to get some initial thoughts out there because I want to play this more.
Oh, yeah.
And let you know how it plays repeatedly, how we've learned from it, how we've grown, and how that plays out on the board.
Well, just like you said, this is one of those games you're going to learn the nuances of the different phases and the different parts. There's a main show here. We talked about this. And then there's 2 or 3 sideshows that you've got to pay attention to, and they really affect what is happening on the board state.
Yes.
And they're kind of a mini game in and of themselves. That war part is fun.
Yes.
That stuff is very interesting. And I told you, I really liked the goods.
Yes.
The global demand and the trade, really a fascinating part. There's a lot to learn here, though. You're not going to sit down, play this one time, and understand every one of these systems, nor are you going to be comfortable with it. I'm now comfortable with the sequence of play.
Yes.
How you play your cards, the way you choose the action tiles, what are they called? The investment tiles. Fantastic, by the way. It's kind of an action selection.
Yeah.
Very cool. I'm comfortable with those things. I understand how to do them.
I understand what the mechanics are.
Yes.
Now, strategically utilizing those and optimizing those and making all that work in the best way for you, there is a lot to learn and play with and unpack and enjoy.
Yes.
And not in like I want to, blow my brains out with this. Yeah. Like there are some games, something like Empire of the Sun, where it's like, like I'm getting brain sweats trying to figure out, you know, how to make it work. Here, there's just a lot of moving pieces. When you press this button, this light comes on, and so does that one.
Yeah.
And then when you press this button, well, that light comes on as well. That one starts blinking, and this one comes on too. Like
that's an apt description.
Everything you do has consequences in this game, and that is something that I love in games. There are some games that we play, and it feels quite dry, or I'm just doing a thing to have done it. Here, when you, even from these investment tiles that you choose, that affects what, if any, events you might be able to play. Yeah. Those are also affected by whatever minister cards that you put down. And you had to make a choice about which ones you put down.
And that was probably the part I still don't feel like I'm comfortable with. Choosing those ministers, I'm more comfortable with it, but man, I got to go back and think about some of those that I didn't choose in the first round or the second round and understand what real benefit do those guys bring. That was a little bit of a challenging part for me.
And I like that stuff. I also like the asymmetry that those bring too. But everything has not just one consequence, but multiple game effects that's going to happen. Because every time you're doing something, you're not doing something else. And that's going to show up maybe in some of the war theaters that you couldn't commit as much to. Yeah. Or you spend a bunch of time committing to that. And then you lose out on some of the market spaces because you're not committing economically to those. Or sometimes you forget it all and you've just spent everything on diplomacy in Central Europe. Yeah. And then you're like, everything else in the world's careening out of control. Yeah.
Well, it was interesting, too. We could see it kind of building. I played the French. You played the British.
Yes.
I focused on like military the first couple of turns, and then it was all in on goods. And we could see it. You kept saying, "Oh, it's over. It's over. It's over."
Yeah.
And now that I've seen it, I'm like, okay, I understood it's over now. I thought it was over potentially, but it wasn't necessarily clear to me that it was over.
Yeah.
And that's a little bit of a challenge, but I also like that you can see it coming. That wave is coming, and you know what? You've got to
get on it early.
Yeah. Yes. You can't wait until 3/4 through the game and decide, oh, I'm finally going to start trying to take some trade goods. It scores every round, and it builds on itself. But I like also that you can see the wave coming, and you can at least get in there and try to stop some of it. I found that really fascinating. The best part of this design to me was those investment tiles.
Yeah, so the way that this game works, and it is very different from any other game that I've played. I've not played a game that does it quite like this. Basically, there are 9 investment tiles
per round.
Yeah, and they have a top and a bottom, and it has like your major action, and it'll have anywhere from like 2 to 4 points. And then there's a little minor section where you get 2 points from that as well. And there's a few other things. It might have an event symbol trigger,
which is like a sword,
and it might
have
a little like a military upgrade symbol as well. But basically, you choose from this pool of face-up tiles. This is the tile that I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And if you pick a very basic one, you'll have 4 points from a major action and 2 points from a minor action. And those actions are subdivided into economic, diplomatic, and militaristic. So if you're doing economic points, you're trying to flip markets so that you control them. And the markets are associated with various goods.
Cotton, spice, fish.
And 50% of the markets will score each turn.
And that was also a very interesting part, because we talked about this. The fish market only has 4 total locations.
Yes.
I gave up on the fish market at the very beginning. You got a couple squadrons up there. You really cornered that market. So I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna fuss with that. Lo and behold, though,
we scored
every round. It scored, and I liked that randomness, because I realized I made a mistake and really shouldn't have let that go. Yeah. But then I was able to then corner sugar market and tobacco, and I got pretty good on the cotton. But I really liked that way that those 6 things just got shuffled every turn. You had a couple cards too that changed out one of the goods.
Yeah, I had an event card that I was like, oh, you've got furs dominated. But I'm like, well, I'm just going to take that fur thing and replace it, and we won't score furs this time. So, and everything has an effect. But that's the economics does all of that. Or you might do the diplomatic, actions, and those affect local alliances out in all the various colonies and such.
Which really fuels wars and adds points to war.
Or you do all of the Central Europe stuff, which that's where you build alliances. There you can gain a lot of prestige, which gains victory points each turn. Or you can get supplementary points towards your wars that you're fighting as well.
And Europe is very key for that. Yeah. Europe is an area that, as a player, you cannot allow your opponent to dominate that. You've got to fight hard, because that's worth 2 victory points over the turn of the stretch of a game. It could be worth 12 victory points for that prestige.
Well, and if you keep letting someone dominate Europe, most likely they're also getting a bunch of
victory points, and
military points for the war. So you're going to start losing those. So there is obviously it's a very interesting place, and you've got to commit to that to some extent as well.
Well, and you just can't give up on anything. I think that's something that I think I learned. You've at least got to fight. You got to at least fight. So anyway, that's the diplomatic, and then there's the military phase.
Yeah, and the military stuff is you can buy extra bonus war counters to put on the war stuff.
That are randomly drawn, which is very cool.
You can use them to build forts, and the forts then protect adjacent markets, make it harder for them to be the influence taken away.
It basically adds 1 point. So if they're a 2 value, you need to spend 3 to turn it over.
And then in some of the theatres of war, they'll contribute a military bonus to those as well. You're using your points to build naval fleets and to send them around the world and to displace enemy fleets and things like that.
And they can also protect trade areas as well, but they do count towards prestige. They count towards military victory. Very fascinating.
And you're using them to quell local conflict markers, local uprisings as well. So, I mean, there is an unbelievable amount of stuff that you're trying to juggle.
Yeah.
And here's what I really liked about this game. There's a lot of stuff to juggle, but you only have 4 turns each round.
Yeah.
There are other games where you've got lots of rounds to do lots and lots of things, like 7 or 8 cards in a hand. And so there's there's
cards over.
Here there's a lot to do, but it's not overwhelming. I don't have a lot to do and a long time and a lot of choices to do.
So there are 4 turns. There's 6 turns with 4 cards or turns in that.
Yeah, you got 4
round.
actions in each action phase.
So it's like 24 cards over the space of a game.
Yeah.
It's really not that much.
No. And you won't play all the cards.
Yeah.
And that's what's interesting. They're like, oh, it's a card-driven game. Well, it's not.
It's not really, yeah.
It's a tile-driven game.
Yes.
But typically you're trying to use as many of those event cards as possible.
Yeah.
Because they just allow you to do more stuff.
Well, the cards really, what they do is they provide you an extra benefit, really.
Yeah.
They do give you an event sometimes. They're like, hey, unflag this territory. That's great.
Some of the stuff's very powerful.
Yeah. Or, hey, you get 1 extra diplomatic point that has to be used in the Caribbean.
Yeah.
So, you're looking for the opportunity to play these cards by choosing the tiles that have the event icons on them.
Yeah.
But it's not really a card-driven game, I wouldn't say. I think it's more of a card-assisted. It's not giving you the op points generally.
It's a tile-driven game.
Yeah, it's driven by the tile. So, I'm going to be honest. This game kind of blew my mind a little bit because I knew it would be good. These guys know what they're doing, and it's a GMT game. But man, this really blew my mind.
I would love to know how long this was in development for. Because there are so many moving parts and layers. And to have them work together, and for you to be able to see that right off the bat. Oh, I did a thing, and it did this and that and this. And for that not to be totally whack.
Yeah.
Or have like something that's like broken or doesn't work.
Yeah.
Or is pointless. Mm-hmm. Nothing in here is pointless.
I think this thing was announced almost 3 years ago.
I mean, it's and how long were they working on it before?
Probably a year or 2 before that.
But even all of these actions that you can take, you can incur debt. You have like a
to
debt
get more actions
to supplement those, or if you've done well in wars, or certain other things can afford you treaty points, which are like a supplementary kind of a debt.
That's
they work
a really
in a similar
cool
way.
thing.
You can just spend those to enhance what you can do, and all of which. Some of that is awarded from doing well in wars. So, like, I'm incentivized to do wars because it's going to help me in peacetime to do better in wars, to help me in peacetime. Well, all of which are getting points.
Well, and just like you're saying with those wars, sometimes your reward isn't victory points. It's a thing called conquest points.
Yeah.
And those conquest points allow you to go out and take over, like, San Augustine.
Yes.
Which you can't normally...
Yes, the only way to get it is through winning wars. So you're looking at those thinking, I want to commit to this theater because I need that space. It's going to be really hard for someone to take away from me because then it's going to allow me to get a foothold and stronghold here. I mean, it's wild how much stuff is in this.
Well, and we didn't even talk about your advantage tiles.
Yeah, right.
When you take over certain trade routes...
Yeah, all these local alliances and a couple other places.
You get these tiles that allow you to take an action. You can do 2 of these per round.
2 of these, per action round. So you can do a bunch of them.
Now, they're specific to the area. Like, if this one, the Carnatic Coast Market, it is only able to be used in this area, in India. You can't use this over in North America.
Yeah, this is like India, unflag one place. It gives you, this gives you a discount to an action you would normally be taking around here. Or some of them, it throws out conflict markers and things like that. All this supplementary stuff that you're doing. So learning it, there was kind of a rules uptake, because there's a lot of different things going on, but once you start playing it and learning it, you're like, okay. After probably 1 or 2 rounds,
I felt more comfortable.
I felt much more comfortable with it. The only issue that I had with the rules is I wish that it had
text or
diagrams of the pieces. So, for example, the war tiles have a bunch of symbology on them, and there isn't a diagram of what there are. It's explained in words. And once you read it, it's fine, But every...
Should have had a picture.
Yeah, just show me a picture next to the text. There was space for it. They could have done it. Just little nuances like that, or having a picture of card breakdown, pointing, this does this does this.
Yep.
Like every other GMT games has that.
Yeah.
So there was a couple pieces in the rule, but I'm like, I just wish that was in there.
Yeah.
Just to have helped me to learn it, because so much of this is quite new in the kind of games that we play, at least.
Well, and the other interesting thing is these war tiles, the bonus ones, they have on the back of them, they have little initials, right? This one says SSM, or wait,
It's
WSS.
It's the War of Spanish Succession.
Yeah, so those are used during the War of Spanish Succession, but really they're all the same.
Yeah,
right? They just have different historical text and people on them.
But there's the same distribution of bonuses and symbols within them.
But that would have been nice to explain what those tiles were, help us understand that better. It just wasn't really clear.
Yeah, just a couple of explanatory bits in the rules with some diagrams would have made it that much easier to like oh, okay.
Yeah.
Instead I was kind of like flicking through the rules trying to find where it referenced these.
Yeah.
And then it's like it explains it in words, which is fine, I guess, but like in this day and age, just give me a diagram.
Yeah, give me a diagram.
It would be nice and easy. Wouldn't be
the other thing we struggled with, the player aid, there's a two-sided player aid. One side has a sequence of play, which is always very important because you can kind of see where things are going.
After a couple turns.
On the back, it talks about the advantage tiles, these things I was talking about that you get through the local connections. And we were for the longest time trying to have... I'm like, I can't see the 7 Years' War over there and what affects what. And so I had to get up, go over there, look at it. Halfway through the game, we realized that's all right
it's
here.
All on there, yeah. So
it's all on the back. So I apologize for that because I was like, what the heck, But it's all right here, and you need to study these because you need to understand, okay, during this war, I need to get some conflict markers in India because that's going to help me, or it's even going to help me anywhere because some of these multiple ones had conflict markers.
Yes.
So that was interesting. I think the production-wise, I didn't even clip my counters.
No.
And
you don't need to in this one.
That's pretty hard for me to do, but these were so well struck that there's no nubs or nibs on them. I didn't need to clip them.
Well, and that's how most of GMT's newer big games are.
Yeah.
Fields of Fire was the same way. Because did it almost fall out of the sprues?
It almost did, absolutely.
Because they cut so well, and it's these thick grey core counters, so it looks very nice as well.
I love the map, too. I think at first I was hesitant about the map, because I thought, what the heck is this?
I was worried it would be a bit confusing.
But it wasn't.
But no, it's once you start playing,
it's just the 4 different areas, India, Europe, North America, and the Caribbean. It's very simple. Maybe they should have written Caribbean, or something. I guess it's not written on there. Just you can see from the geography.
Yeah.
Very well done production-wise. I enjoyed this game. I'm going to be honest. This is already, after one play, I see this as a serious contender for my top 3 or 4 games of the year.
Yeah, it's very good, yes.
And I don't know that I would call it a war game. I think it has some war-like elements, but I'm not sure it's a war game.
This is more of a war game than Twilight Struggle.
I agree with you on that one.
That's not saying much, because Twilight Struggle is not a war game.
Well, and that was the other thing, but we can finish maybe the video up on this. It's not a war game. It's not. It's got conflict and struggle, but there's not...
It's an area control
game. It's area control. Where was I going with this?
I don't know.
Yeah, you don't know.
This one's more of a war game. You actually resolve some wars, but it's also it's dudes on a map area control over there. But
so Twilight, this is kind of promoted as the spiritual successor. I hate that phrase, by the way.
That's the phrase that's been bandied about.
Yeah, that it's the spiritual successor for Twilight Struggle.
Yes.
Do you agree with that?
It is entirely different from Twilight Struggle.
I would agree with that too. I think it has some similarities.
I'll say, okay, here are the similarities. It is a 2-player game.
Yeah.
And you are vying for global control.
Yes.
It has cards.
Yes.
And that's about where it ends.
I would also say that it is that similar struggle for control of certain specific locations.
But
it's done differently.
Spending action points to do some of that. But
that's
it's not. Yeah, it's Twilight Struggle. You've got I've got 5 influence and you've got 2. You're going to try and put some more in. And I put some more in. It's much more. And I reference Washington's War where it's
the
either yours,
control
mine,
markers.
or there's nothing there.
Yeah,
that's how those spaces work. And I just spend ops Oh, it's mine now. Oh, you spend more. It's neutral now. And you spend more. Oh, it's yours now. Great.
Yeah.
So it works in that way, but the way that the cards play and the tiles are drawn makes this entirely different. And the whole world, you can't, the way the areas are linked, and you had to have controlled this area for the whole turn to get that one.
You can't take control and leapfrog immediately. You got to wait for it. So that's the same concept.
But that aspect of it is so much smaller.
Yeah.
Like Twilight Struggle, the whole world is linked, basically. In the networks are much smaller in the way that these work. Europe doesn't have one because it works entirely differently.
Yeah.
So in the sense that it's a spiritual successor, sure.
Yeah.
In probably the truest sense of that, but if you're expecting there's Twilight Struggle and then 1989. Yeah, and that's like a sequel, right?
Yeah.
Those are very, very, very similar.
Yeah.
This is very, very, very different.
Yeah.
Different feel, entirely different feel. It's very tense, but it is, there are so many other games that are much more similar to Twilight Struggle than this. This is quite different and refreshing, and I love it.
Right. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think this is a new experience that really... I enjoyed this. I really had a good time playing this.
Yes.
And I've heard people online say, "Oh, it's a great game. It's a great game." And I'm like, I want to see it first.
And
now that we played it, I would agree. My voice would chime in and say, "Yeah, this is a great game."
This has got more meat on the bones than Twilight Struggle does.
I think it does too.
There's a bit more to do, and I'd love to see. I don't think this will ever be as popular as that, only because this is a bit more complicated.
It is. It's a little bit more.
There's just a few more moving pieces, and Twilight Struggle is beautiful in its simplicity, right? Hand of cards, events, actions, and it's red versus blue, and you make it work.
But this game's beautiful too.
Yes,
it really is.
But I don't think you'll
Everything
get
works
quite
well
as
together.
wide an appeal as that, just because it's the theme and it's got more weight to it. It's got more stuff to do.
Yeah.
But if you like that, if you want to get invested in a game, this is not a bad place to start.
Yeah.
It's very, very good.
When can we play this one again?
Immediately.
Yeah, I want to play it again.
How I judge a game.
Yeah, this is a good one.
Yeah, I'm like, we might have to cancel our plans.
Well, we just talked. It's so funny. We just talked 3 hours ago. Hey, we got to set up a lineup of play games because we got to get some of these games played and reviewed. And I'm like, this one gets pushed back in the line again.
Yeah.
Pretty soon.
Yeah.
We got to play this one very soon. So I liked it. So I think Ananda and Jason, great job. I look forward to how they now maybe take the model into a different direction. I also really liked this concept of France versus... I just think it's really Britain and France versus each other. It's just great.
Yeah, obviously,
it's
thematically,
cool.
the game paints with massive, broad brushstrokes and assumes a lot of things.
Yeah.
And you're just... it's vying for a lot of control, and it brushes over a lot of history, but that doesn't mean the game is not good and mechanically fun to play. It's an enjoyable experience.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's initial thoughts of Imperial Struggle. We will play this a number more times, and we'll do an official review, and we'll kind of show you everything. There's a lot of that stuff already out there.
And I'm going to do some action point write-ups on this because this is really fascinating.
But yeah, this warrants more plays, especially, I think, with the same opponent. I think that's going to be the same with Labyrinth and Twilight Struggle. If you're experienced and you play with a newbie, you're probably going to crush him.
Right.
I think a lot of games have that. There's nothing wrong with that, but playing with the same opponent again and again, you learn maybe some of the things...
Their nuances.
Yeah, some of the bluffs and tells,
yeah.
and he's trying to do something different over here. That's the real fun stuff where you play the player as well as the game.
Yeah.
I like that. That's enjoyable.
Well, and I'm going to stand with my French brothers, and I'm going to keep playing the French because I feel like I got a good feel for them. Eventually, I want to flip it over and play the British, but
yeah,
I enjoyed playing the French. Now that I know a little better what they were doing and how they were doing it, I kind of want to try them again.
Yes.
Vive la France.
Yes, well, and that, I guess, yeah, well, this one has a different, it's a different set of cards, right?
Yeah.
Where, other games, communal deck, and there's red and blue events.
Yeah, these are totally different.
Here it's, both have events that are different on each card, so I'll be interested to see how that plays out with playing the other side and repeat plays and things like that, so... Yeah. That's Twilight... Oh, no.
No. It's Imperial Struggle.
Imperial Struggle! From GMT. It's very, very good. You will hear more of this from us. You will see this on every table at every convention you go to next year.
Well, and I think this... Wasn't it like over 4,000 copies with the P500? I mean... That's like one of the largest I've seen.
At least, and then they're gonna
sell another 5,000 to 10,000 copies in the next year.
I'm sure we'll be having second, third, fourth printing, second editions. This has got a lot of staying power, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
So I appreciate you guys tuning in. Imperial Struggle from GMT. I've been Alexander from theplayersaid.com.
And I'm Grant.